What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It's Wednesday, November 9th, 2016, and the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in the control room, ready to answer the phone when you call on in. And I don't know, what should we talk about today? Anything important going on right now? We had an election yesterday, didn't we? Well, Donald Trump did it, pulled off a miracle despite all the reports of election fraud and illegal immigrants voting multiple times and the walking dead voters. Donald Trump won the election. He is the next president of the United States of America, going to be the 45th president, and it was just an amazing thing to see happen as the numbers were coming on in. And everybody's describing it as unprecedented, shocking the world. It was amazing, and Trump declared it to be a victory for all Americans, and he's absolutely correct. This was the people of the United States of America telling the oligarchical establishment, "You are fired." And that's exactly what happened here. And they're already talking about a special prosecutor for Hillary Clinton. And I would sure like to be on that staff, unless they give me NASA. I still want NASA. I think Donald Trump owes me NASA so I can get the ground crew to dress up like apes when the astronauts come on back here. And obviously, the ramifications of this are tremendous. This is not just who gets to be the president, but everybody who was supporting Hillary Clinton with her criminality is now realizing the next administration is not going to be cutting them any slack or protecting them. There's not going to be any James Comey saying we refuse to bring charges. There isn't going to be a Loretta Lynch saying we refuse to bring charges. The rule of law is going to be reimposed at the upper reaches of our society, and everybody is in a panic, including President Obama. Because going back over his term in office, there are 78 times he broke the law during the presidency. He's got his own problems with the blind trust. But what we've seen here is the rise of the deplorables. We've shaken up the elite. The Obama era, the Bush era, the Clinton era go down in flames. It's a populist revolt, and everybody's just thrilled about, well, not everybody. Obviously, Hillary's people are out there rioting right now and burning American flags. Let's take a phone call. Bob in Las Vegas, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. It's a great day for America.
Yes.
I was so excited last night. I was up till 1 a.m. here, Vegas time. I wanted to see Trump. I was so happy that he came out and spoke, and it was fantastic. And, of course, I had to watch Hillary's concession speech this morning, and those ashtrays, They were flying last night.
I'm sure of that. Absolutely. I mean, the tradition is normally when the election is over, the loser makes the concession speech right there and then, but Hillary just basically went off and got drunk or whatever, went to bed, and she sent Podesta out there to make a few comments about blah, blah, blah. And then everybody said, you got to do a concession speech, so she did it this morning. She was like an hour and 8 minutes late for her own speech.
She was. Mike, they were asking, I was watching Fox last night, they were asking what's the significance of this election, and what was the message? The message, this was a wake-up call to the establishment.
Yes.
Get with the program or you're next. That was the message.
Oh, it's a major watershed moment. It's not just Hillary versus Donald Trump. The corporate media is all of a sudden realizing they have lost control of the minds of America. All of these polling organizations are scrambling to try and explain away why they were so obviously wrong. And so there's a lot of egg on a lot of faces this morning.
I think Trump's victory was bigger than it appeared, because look, the whole establishment was against him. He faced a vicious media campaign, and he still won despite all that opposition. But I believe he probably scored better than his actual vote tally.
Well, they're still counting the last of the votes out there on the West Coast and even here in Hawaii. And at one point, Hillary's popular vote numbers actually went ahead of Donald Trump's, and there was an immediate flurry of, well, this is the time to get rid of the Electoral College and let the will of the people speak. And then, of course, the numbers shifted back to Donald Trump. And he's not only ahead on the electoral votes, he's $1 million ahead in the popular vote, so Hillary's people had to kind of shut up about that one as well. Now,
but Mike, what about electoral reform? Because after the 2000 fiasco, that's all we heard about, that was going to be a priority, and it was just forgotten. I mean, is it now the fact that Trump won, will electoral reform, will it be a priority? Or
I think it will be, because in 2000, the guy who was cheating won and didn't want the system to change because he wanted to win again. He wanted his friends to win again. We're going to do a quick shout-out to our on-air affiliates who are rejoining our network. Obviously, we're talking about Donald Trump's amazing victory last night to win the presidency over Hillary Clinton. And, excuse me, still fighting the tail end of this cold here. Now, Hillary's big mistake, looking, Monday morning quarterbacking here, she made a couple of major mistakes. One, she assumed that she had Florida because of all the fraud that was going on down there. And where that fell apart was because Donald Trump had made election fraud a possibility in the mind of the public. People were on the lookout for it. They were stopping it. We were hearing places where voting machines that were flipping votes from Trump to Hillary were literally taken out of service, and they went back to the paper ballots. Hillary simply assumed Wisconsin and Michigan were going to vote Democratic because that's what they've always traditionally done. They flipped on her as well. And Hillary Clinton, according to the demographics in the last polls, Hillary Clinton didn't really connect with the black, Hispanic, and women voters. The vagina vote strategy didn't work on out, probably because of the sheer hypocrisy of Hillary Clinton up there talking about being a champion for women with her record of destroying those women who had accused Bill Clinton of his various sexual crimes over the years. And I think some of the leaders of Black Lives Matter really hit it on the head when they said, Hillary Clinton is saying everything we want to hear, and we have absolutely no way to know that she will ever keep her word about any of it. And I think she lost the Hispanic vote because those Hispanics who are in this country legally, they're seeing the illegal immigrants as competition for jobs and resources, and they're sick and tired of being blended in with them. If you're Hispanic, they assume you must be an illegal. And they worked very long and very hard to be legal American citizens. And all of a sudden, the illegals are coming on over. They're getting the jobs. They're getting all the social services. They're being allowed to vote. They're being encouraged to vote. And that alienated the legal Hispanic citizens as well.
Well, Mike, before I let you go, before you let me go, did you hear about that new hit song on the radio?
Which one?
Ding dong, the witch is
dead. Oh, everybody's singing that. I got that video sent to me like 5,000 times already. They were singing it on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange while Hillary was making her concession speech.
I couldn't resist.
Strive, Bob, strive.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks. We're going to switch over to James in Tokyo. Aloha, James. Welcome back to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Michael. It's a great day, but I'm very disappointed in you because I expect you to be totally smiling, throwing back shots of Chivas Regal with your lovely Angel Claire, and just...
I never, ever drink on the air. I sneak one during the commercial breaks.
As a great fan of yours, I think a lot of your fans and everybody owes you a great thank you because you're one of the guys that really helped make America great again. And I think you should really don't mind drinking the shots on the air because you've done such a great job in informing people about all the corruption and everything. And everything is going to change from January 20th.
It's already starting. It's already starting to change here. And the reason I'm not drinking is because I have to run errands this afternoon, and I've got a whole bunch of other interviews on other radio stations for the rest of the day here. But once that's all over, Claire and I are going to hoist a very fine scotch, and I'm going to do something really gross and disgusting with the inflatable Hillary Love doll. Claire wants to take pictures so she can blackmail me.
Hey, Michael, just thanks a lot, and that's all I had to say, and wish you all the best. We all love you who are your fans, because you're the greatest.
All right, well,
and
thank you very much. Thank you very much for those kind words here. We're going to switch over to Blair in Alberta. Aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Oh, okay. Hi, Michael. First of all, I want to congratulate all Americans for making the right choice.
Yes.
This was yesterday, and I was going to ask you, how is it going to look when suddenly all these donations to the Clinton Foundation drop off and the large speaking fees? Will that not be a tell as if it was a pay-for-play?
Oh, even worse than that. All those countries that donated to the Clinton Foundation are now asking for refunds.
Oh, okay. That's what I was wondering. I just thought, how would that look in the eyes of the Justice Department when they actually go to investigate this thing?
If Trey Gowdy gets to be the Attorney General, it's going to be a bloodbath, and I'm sure Hillary is sitting there thinking that she can skate on this thing. She's got enough lawyers and enough pull. But I would not be surprised if we wind up seeing some of these corrupted politicians leave the U.S. for places without extradition.
Well, Qatar, I guess, That's where the money's at.
Well, that's where some of their money is at. I'm sure they've already squirreled it away in various places around the globe.
True enough. Okay, well, thanks very much for taking my call.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Russ in Alabama. Aloha, Russ. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi there. The following would have been of particular concern had she managed to steal the election. But Dr. Bruce Agnew pointed out something interesting, that there are two prosecutorial avenues. One of them is the special prosecutor, who has exclusive custody of all of the evidence and can be appointed for any reason, just because he is liked by the DOJ or whatever, and is under no particular time constraints to return an indictment or exoneration. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, if it goes to a grand jury, grand juries return an indictment quickly, with about over 90% of the time, and that precipitates an arrest. So I think we want the latter.
Well, again, if Trey Gowdy becomes the Attorney General, I don't know that we need a special prosecutor. But the problems for the Clintons are manifold, because some of what they have done falls under IRS jurisdiction, whether or not the Clinton Foundation is actually a 501c3 charity or not. Some of what they've done falls under state law up in New York. So it's not like this is all going through one narrow gap that they can arrange some kind of a block. This is going to get really ugly. The American people want the Clintons looked into. They want the crimes exposed. I'm still going to be pushing on this issue about whether Hillary Clinton was selling U.S. secrets to foreigners using her email server. And, this is not over. The fact that she lost the election is not going to get her off the hook. Indeed, it makes her much more vulnerable, because she's not going to be the next president, and she's not going to have that authority. There is blood in the water, and all of the sharks who do not like Hillary Clinton are already starting to circle.
True, but the special prosecutor, insofar as, he has purview over certain of her crimes, that could be a procrastination measure versus turning it over to a grand jury.
Well, that would be the case if Obama had appointed a special prosecutor. I would go along with you on that one. But we're talking about Donald Trump, who does not like Hillary Clinton after what she's done to him in his campaign. And the attacks on his wife, and he's not going to be sympathetic to her at all. So we'll see how that plays on out. But the advantage of a special prosecutor is they can dig into areas that might not be available to a grand jury.
Very interesting.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thanks an awful lot here. We're going to switch over to Roseanne in North Carolina. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi. How are you?
I'm doing great today for some strange reason.
I know, I can't stop smiling. I'm not going to lie. I can't stop smiling.
Yes.
I just wanted to tell you about a little story that we had on Monday. So, Trump came to Raleigh back in December of 2015, his first rally here at the North Carolina State Fairgrounds.
Yes.
And he was heading back to that same exact venue on Monday. And my friends and I got together and we were like, do we go to the rally? Do we wave at him in the highway? What do we do? We decided to go ahead and do a Trump wave on the overpass, knowing full well that he would pass that way on his way to the venue. And sure as heck, he came about an hour after we got out there, and I saw him actually in the middle seat of his SUV, and he waved at us from the windshield. And it was really exciting. We got it on video, but the media that was traveling with him, they got us on video also, and they tweeted it all over. So it was really nice just to welcome him to North Carolina, and then, wouldn't you know it, North Carolina gave him the state. So I thought that was kind of an exciting story.
Well, it is exciting, and you can almost feel this energy and relief just all across the entire country, except, of course, for Hillary supporters. We'll be getting into that in a little tiny bit here. So thank you very much for the update, Roseanne. We're going to switch over to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Dustin, are you there? Dustin, going once? Going.
Hi, Mike.
Oh,
yeah, I got you. Hey, Mike, don't get too cocky. I remember a couple of days ago, one of your listeners says this is not the beginning of the end, it's just the end of the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
This is globalist, people. You got to remember that. So you still got the threats against Russia going on and the economy.
Well, the economy is a problem. I will grant you that. And no, the work is not over. But we can afford to take a couple of days and celebrate this major victory. As far as Russia is concerned, I mean, Putin's already called up Donald Trump and said, yes, I agree, let's go back to being friends. So I can imagine the U.S. trying to provoke Russia over the next 70 days, but Putin's just not going to respond. Because he knows as soon as Trump is in the White House, the war with Russia is going to be over.
Hey, Mike, did you see there's an article about the UN? They're in disbelief Trump won. So can this be the reset, the changing of the guard, the beginning of the changing of the guard?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we're seeing people in the corporate media haven't been seen today. They're hiding out and trying to distance themselves from this debacle. This is the fallout from Trump's election victory is spreading all across the country and around the world. It really is a seismic shift in the socio-political order of the entire world, and we still don't know how far it's going to reach or what it's going to accomplish just yet. We're just beginning to see the after effects of this. The shock alone from his victory is already sending ripples across the political order all over Europe.
Hey, Mike, did you notice even in Europe and in the media, they're like tearing. I can see they're hesitant in the voice. It's almost like a Kim Jong-il dying in North Korea, like a cult. Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah. Well, Hillary was always running her campaign as a personality cult. Everybody was in on, Her Highnessness Hillary and everything. I mean, MSNBC didn't actually announce that Trump had won the election until Trump was already making his victory speech. I mean, that's how much in denial they were.
Yeah, it's like Rachel Madcow. These people are literally, you can see that their eyes are glassy. They're even Wolf Blitzer. It's a cult, a globalist cult, basically, of like a Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-il dies, which is a sad thing because I don't want anybody to die. But the people are crying, and it's a cult, people. It's a globalist cult.
Oh, there's more going on. There's more going on than that. They're crying because they just realized they're going to have to learn how to live without those $1 million paychecks. From now on, the glory days of highly paid corporate media, prostitution, and correspondence is gone. All right, we got to take a break for commercials. Thank you for the phone call, Dustin. We'll be right back. Hello, hi, America. Welcome back to the show. And before we go back to the phones here, I'm getting a lot of emails from people. Yes, the website is having some serious problems today. I sort of assumed that Hillary's people would have quit last night, but there have been a few hacker attacks, not as intense as the last 2 days, but they're still out there playing their games. But worse, it turns out that they have caused some damage to our database, and the ISP is going to restore from an earlier backup overnight tonight. So by tomorrow morning, the site should be back to normal, we hope. In any event, I'm going to start working on designing and building a whole new website that's up to date with the software and everything. So thank you for bearing with us, and at least we made it through the election before things really started to fall apart on the website. But it's just like any other software. They upgrade the operating systems, and they upgrade PHP and SQL, and that forces you to have to update your content management system as well. And it's a big headache, especially for somebody who's trying to do it all themselves. But that's what's going on with all of that. All right, we're going to go back to the phones. Glenn in Philadelphia, aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike? Hello, Mike. Given the vitriol that was exchanged between Donald and Hillary during the campaign and the debates, and Trump's specifically saying that he would consider appointing a special prosecutor to look into Hillary's dealings, I wonder and speculate if something didn't transpire between them when she called him to concede, because he came out to the podium and spoke of unity and sort of very much like unification, healing the wounds kind of thing. And part of me wonders if there wasn't a, look, you call off your dogs, I'll call off mine kind of exchange in there somewhere.
Well, I mean, Hillary's dogs are pretty much toothless now that Trump has won the White House. There's nothing else she can go after on him. But go back and study victory speeches by presidents. Ever since they started doing radio and TV, every candidate who wins the presidency talks about unification and bringing the country together as a whole unit. That's just the traditional thing that they say. I wouldn't read too much into that.
Right. She could, if she's in cahoots with Soros, she could have him so much more trouble, but who knows? That doesn't seem...
No,
like
she doesn't have anything to bargain with anymore. She doesn't have anything to bargain with, and, I mean, that's it. I mean, her entire campaign was leveraged on her winning the White House and being able to pay back favors and protect her supporters from prosecution. She doesn't have that anymore. And I'll bet you we're going to start seeing a lot of the Hillary Clinton insiders starting to head for the prosecutor's office and talk about immunity deals.
Right. If I had been a voting illegal alien, I think I would have voted for Trump, because I wouldn't want the TPP and the TTIP to go through and flood the country with H-1B and H-2B skilled and unskilled labor.
Well, I don't mean to cast aspersions on the illegal immigrants, but I'm not sure that they were really all that aware or concerned about TPP and TTIP as much as getting over the border and getting their green card. And by the way, that's a major part of the groups that started rioting last night all over the West Coast when Trump won. Because, they'd gotten across the border, they'd voted for Hillary Clinton 5, 6, 7, 20 times, and they're not going to get their payoff, and they're very unhappy about that.
Right. Also, Larry Nichols was pointing out that even though the Republicans won majorities in both the House and the Senate, Trump could still find himself pitted against some rhino resistance in dealing with the new Congress.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with Larry on that one. That's why I keep saying we, the American people, are going to have to stand shoulder to shoulder with President Trump, and we're going to have to glare through those office windows of the representatives and the senators and remind them every single day, you work for us. You represent us. You don't represent Big Pharma. You don't represent Big Oil. You don't represent Wall Street. You don't represent Israel. You don't represent the Uranium One deal. You represent us, or you are gone next election, because in the next 2 years, we're going to overhaul this election system and put in something honest. And the reason we can do it now is because the guy who was being cheated still managed to win, and he's going to want that crooked election system gone before he runs for re-election.
Right. Trey Gowdy or Rudy Giuliani for Attorney General?
Trey Gowdy.
Okay.
That's what I would prefer.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go, and we'll be right back after these few words. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And let's see, John on the West Coast. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? John, are you there?
Yes. You hear me?
Yes, you're on the air.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. I just would like to make one statement to Hillary Clinton. We came, we saw, you choked.
Very appropriate.
Now she can get Newland to make cookies for Lynn Rothschild as a way to make tennis for her, you know?
Well, there is still the possibility that Obama may just write a blanket pardon for everybody on his last day in office, and of course that's going to look really bad next to his name in the history books. But it's entirely possible because again, what they're protecting is not Hillary Clinton, but the scale of what she was doing is sufficient to delegitimize the entire government. Especially if I'm right, and we had a serving Secretary of State betraying her country, selling secrets to foreign interests through that weak email server, and using that charitable foundation to collect and launder the payments.
Yeah, I'm just very, very happy and elated that it's a positive step to the right direction.
It's a beginning. It's a beginning. The door...
Even with all the cheating, Donald Trump still won.
Yes. We the American people spoke. Nigel Farage is out there saying this is a bigger upset than Brexit was, and I think he's absolutely right. But again, we've had a door opened to a better future, but we're going to have to walk on through it and actually do the work. Trump can't do this all by himself. If you stay at home and say, we got Trump into the White House, now I can sit down and watch TV, no, it's not going to work that way. We are all decisively committed for the next 4 years to be working with Donald Trump to corral that Congress and bring them back to the will of we the people.
Yeah, also, he needs to be real careful about his physical being because as vice president, I'm picturing a JFK scenario again.
You're appropriate to make that comment because Donald Trump is going into office with as many elements of the government opposed to him as John F. Kennedy was.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to go to Brian in Chile. Aloha, Brian. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call, Mike. Say, if you could, Mike, in your infinite wisdom, which I have grown to respect over the years, could you possibly speculate on some possible cabinet positions?
At this point, no. And in any event, I don't need to. I'm sure they're going to be announced very, very shortly. In fact, I think I saw an article where they're already starting to name names, but I haven't looked at it yet. Again, what my hope is that Trey Gowdy will be the Attorney General, because Trey Gowdy will go after Hillary and her minions. He's just absolutely furious at what went down in those congressional hearings. Rudy Giuliani is an experienced prosecutor, but he's part of the problem. He's part of the clique and the cabal, and he will not get the job done.
Yeah. Well, if I could, too, I'd like to recommend you as being the White House spokesman.
Well, I know you mean well, and I'm flattered, but I'm open to opportunities. Following this victory, I'm open for any kind of an opportunity to move up into a situation where I'm not having to do everything myself. White House spokesman, I don't think so. I'm going to hold out for NASA.
Press secretary, so to speak. That would be a good position for you, press secretary.
I have a bad habit of thinking too much for myself, and I have this genetic flaw that prevents me from seeing the emperor's new clothes. So I think I'd be a very lousy spokesperson for the White House.
Well, but that's what we like about you, Mike.
Well, that's why. I mean, on day number 2, Trump would call me into the Oval Office and say, "You're fired."
You're fired. I think it would be a great position for you as long as you could still run your radio show from the basement of the White House.
Well, we'll see what transpires here, and like I said, I welcome any opportunities that are going to open up. But somehow I really don't see myself being at the White House. You know, I've never even been to Washington D.C. yet. So anyway, thanks an awful lot for the kind thoughts, and I know you mean well. We're going to switch over to George in Texas. Aloha, George. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, very jubilant today, Mike. You know, the thing is, I'm looking at the on Facebook, and they got high school walkouts in a few high schools in Phoenix. Protests at Berkeley and University of Texas, and it just kind of say we need to reform the student loan Pell Grant program. That if you want to go to college and get a student loan or get a grant, that it's only designed for like skilled positions. None of these women's studies, black studies, Hispanic studies, whatever studies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you know, reform education. Because I can tell you one thing: these students just didn't think about this on their own. Some professor or teacher had to put them up to this.
Oh, we had that tenured Harvard professor was out there saying that if Trump wins, there should be rioting in the streets. And I think we ought to look very closely at this guy now that there actually is rioting in the streets. But what it underscores is the fact that under Hillary and under liberalism and under political correctness, we have created a generation of spoiled brats who are arrogant in their ignorance and throw tantrums if they don't get what they want, no matter how ridiculous it may be.
Exactly. And another thing about blaming the Russians for a hacked election, well, like I say, I don't think Donald Trump is blaming the Russians for when people voted for Trump and the computer flipped to Hillary.
No, he's definitely not doing that, but it's definitely an idea that's catching on because now Angela Merkel is claiming Russia is going to interfere with the German elections and keep her from winning re-election. I mean, right now the polls are showing the German people are sick and tired of her, so she's already out there saying, if I lose this election, it's Vladimir Putin's fault. And everybody is like doing the palm to forehead moment saying, oh, come on now, already, enough with this nonsense.
Well, you know, I got a position for you in the Trump administration. Put you to the head of TSA. You better revive the Hawaiian tourist industry real fast.
That would be really good. I would like to do that. I'd like to revive the tourism industry all across America. Especially interior tourism. And I actually proposed a TV show for one of the travel channels called The America Less Traveled, which focused on out-of-the-way things that most people don't know are there. And the pilot involved things here in Hawaii most tourists don't know are here, like the stone terraces up in the jungle you can go see, and the old World War I pillboxes, although those got torn out over at Makapu'u Point. But the travel channel came back, or the tourism channel came back, and said basically we focus on the commercial venues to send people there to spend money, and we're not really interested in showing them things they can go to see for free. So the show kind of went nowhere.
Well, you know, the thing is, I went what was a very nice journey is I took old Route 66. And I'll tell you, seeing history, even though there are ghost towns, I mean, you've seen history come alive.
Well, I hate to give my age away here, but I did Route 66 when it still was Route 66.
Yeah. But anyway, you know, as far as like with Donald Trump, like I say, we got to, got to repeat the words of Reagan to Congress. We may not make them see the light, but boy, let's make them feel the heat.
That's a very, very, very good sentiment. All right, well, listen, George, we're going to let you go here. We got a lot of callers and we're running out of time here. Bill in Wisconsin, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, aloha, Mike. I want to tell you that in our local weekly newspaper, I put in almost a quarter-page ad here, and it reads, "In a world of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act." George Orwell, 1984.
Yes.
Then big, bold letters, "Join the revolution," and then I reference Alex Jones' site and whatreallyhappened.com.
Well, I appreciate that. I wish my website was running properly now, but it will be back running properly tomorrow. I have been told.
The other thing, I'm a county supervisor, and I passed out at my own expense copies of the DVD Vaxxed by Del Bigtree.
Yes.
And, to try to wake them up concerning the dangers of vaccination and the connection to autism, and the fact that down the road, these autistic children, when mom and dad die, are going to be wards of the local government and a huge expense. And it used to be 1 in 10,000. Now it's 1 in 58.
Yes.
And they're saying by, 2025 or even sooner, 1 out of every 2 children will have been butchered and will be autistic.
Hey, but it's making money for the pharmaceutical corporations, and that makes it all better.
Well, we gotta stop that. So this fits in with the whole idea, like you say, that we've got to get going, and the fight is just beginning.
Yes.
And we got to support Trump, and we got to make sure there's no neocons in his cabinet. And you're right about Trey Gowdy, and you're also very right about Rudy Giuliani.
Well, one of the things that is going to come out of this election is those few Americans who still thought the corporate media was accurate and truthful. They got a wake-up call last night, and I'm not surprised that we're still seeing attacks on the independent media websites and radio shows and everything today, because we're going to start gathering those audiences in. And it's a seismic shift. The fundamental nature of information flow in society has been changing, and yesterday was the wake-up call. The corporate media is no longer in control of the minds of America. The Americans are now skeptical. They're analytical. They're thinking for themselves. They're going to where they're going to find the information they need to have, and that's a good thing because inevitably they come on over to our websites and our radio shows. Anyway, Bill, thank you very much, and we're going to let you go here and switch to John in Barbados. Aloha, John. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. Yes. Yesterday I said I'd give you my view on the election. So here goes.
Yeehaw! I second John that one.
So, but I caution people, because of this is a really good Trump win, a solid Trump win. Remember Brexit. But this is Brexit maybe on steroids, but he still faces a lot of opposition. And look what's happening in Britain after the vote for Brexit. This man is going to have to be very, very careful.
Yes.
He needs to do a Clinton-esque clear out of all these people from the.
He's got the authority to do it, but Trump still needs us. He needed us to vote him into office. He still needs us to support him to do what he wants to do, because he's up against an entrenched oligarchical establishment that loves things just the way they are right now, even though it's a GOP House and a GOP Senate. Most of those people grew very, very rich off the existing culture of corruption, and they don't want that to change one tiny bit. Most of them are holding on to their seats election after election through election fraud. They don't want that to change. And it's going to be an uphill fight, and we're going to have to be there with Donald Trump to bring these changes about. He can't do it all by himself.
Well, just consider what happened just a month or so ago when Kerry and Obama had this deal with Russia for a ceasefire and what have you to allow these talks to go ahead. The military moved in and torpedoed it by bombing Syrian troops. This is the type of thing we're going to see.
Well, the military has always done that. I mean, Kennedy and Khrushchev were talking about making peace with between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, and somebody sabotaged Francis Gary Powers' U-2, so it had to come down low enough to do an engine restart, and that's where it was hit by the missiles. And so, yeah, Trump needs to be aware that the instruments of his own government are going to be out there playing games to protect their own particular interests and agendas. And certainly from the point of view of the Pentagon and the defense establishment, that's more war. And that's why I'm very, very concerned that they're going to try and start a real hot war with Russia and or China before Trump can take office. Now, Putin has already signaled he's going to sit still and wait for Trump to get into office and go back to being friends. So I'm expecting that in the next few days we're going to see the military emphasis shift back toward provoking some kind of a conflict with China.
Well, I think what will probably preempt that is the situation now in Europe. It was fragile before Trump was elected. Now, boy, it's hanging by its fingernails.
Absolutely.
So we're looking at a situation, if Europe goes, that will bring the whole system down.
Yes, it will. This is Trump's election victory was a major body blow to the New World Order agenda. Because now, like Russia and China, the United States is not going along with that anymore. And that's a major, major problem. Anyway, John, I'm going to let you go here. We got a bunch of calls I need to get through, and then I need to get back to the actual news here. So we're going to switch over to Laura in Colorado. Aloha, Laura. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I'm so glad to hear your show today. Wanted to tell you, I was watching last night on Fox News. You know, they had a camera on the crowd over at the Trump party, you know, waiting for the election results, where all the people were hanging out and they were going to celebrate. And then they had the camera showing the Hillary Clinton group over in a huge room. There were thousands of people sitting there. The differences between those two groups of people were night and day. And I'm not talking about the fact that the Hillary crowd was so sad sack and they were all sitting there pouting. I'm talking about just the appearance of the people themselves. That was the one thing that I noticed. The Hillary group were people that looked like they had just been hanging around in their sweatpants and got up and went into a rally. The Trump group were people that were, you know, dressed in you know, clothes like they were actually going to go out and be a part of something. They didn't look like they were hanging out in their backyard on a lawn chair. So that was one of the things that I noticed. But here was something that I noticed that really kind of caught my attention and freaked me out. The stage at the Hillary campaign party thing.
Okay, Laura, I'm going to have to put you on hold. Don't go away. I'm going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors. Hi, America. Welcome back to the show. We're talking with Laura in Colorado. Please continue.
Okay, the party area where all of the Hillary supporters were gathered, you know, and she was going to walk out onto the stage and give her victory speech and all that. The stage was actually shaped like the United States of America, and the podium was right in the middle of that. And the symbolism of that struck me instantly was that she was going to walk out and she was going to be standing on top of the United States of America, and the entire country was going to be under her feet. And that is the symbolism that I saw in that, and I just wanted to share that with you. I was thoroughly disgusted by that.
Yeah, but I'm sure some set designer came up with that. And it's, you know, it's confirmation bias. People are going to look at that and, you know, Hillary's supporters are going to say it's great. She's the symbol of America. And others are going to say, oh, it's a symbol of her wanting to trample us, under her feet. And maybe that's not an invalid subtext. I wouldn't read all that much into it, though. At this point, the question is Hillary really going to just quietly retire, from, public life or not? I'm sure she's thinking that she's going to have some really nice cushy job over at Wall Street, but given the reception she got on the floor of the stock exchange during her concession speech, she's not well liked over there. Partly what's going on is all these Wall Street firms gambled huge amounts of money on her candidacy, and they've lost. And I don't really see any of them being all that eager to have her come on board any of their businesses, because her public reputation and public image isn't all that good. She's not going to be seen as a plus.
Well, it sucks to be them, and, you know, I'm sure it sucks to be her, but she is what she is, and, you know, after all, I was kind of shocked at how many people would still want to vote for her after all of the scandals and all of the stuff that came out and the email thing and the whole shebang. And it was just like, you know, I can't even imagine. I think these people have an IQ of less than 70 or something. I just can't imagine how anybody could want to support someone like that. Thanks for taking my call, Mike.
All right, well, you've got it. I mean, there are always people who want to believe they know what's going on, but they don't want to spend the time to find out what's happening, and they fall for the jingoism, and they fall for the personality and the best dressed contest. But I don't think Hillary actually got as many votes as they're trying to claim, because we know there was massive election fraud. Yes, there were people who voted for Hillary, and again, I'm thinking about this friend of Claire's and mine who literally said, you know, I don't need to do anything than listen to NPR to know what's going on in the world, which it makes as much sense as saying that I know everything there is to know about Adolf Hitler by watching the Lena Riefenstahl movies. That's what really made me understand. Liberals are not actually intellectual elites. They're very narrow-minded, uninformed, and they're arrogant in their ignorance, and that's what makes them so dangerous. We got to take a break for station identification. Back with a few more phone calls and then the news after these few words. Aloha, America. Welcome to our show here, hour number 2, and we're going to take 2 more phone calls, then we're going to close the phone lines because I got a bunch of news I need to get out to you. We're going to go to Alex in Florida. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Michael, good job getting us this election win. But I just wanted to say this. I would sure like to see Trump incorporate Bernie Sanders in his administration somehow. I think it would be a very good thing for him to do. I think Sanders is actually a real good guy. And the second point that I wanted to make is I think that Trump should really consider a Medicare for all health care system.
Well, a single-payer system like they have in France.
Yeah, I mean, we need it. I mean, there's people that need to see the doctor to get their insulin. There's people that need medicine. It's the most proven system that we have. It's the most cost-effective system that we have. And if he could get that passed, it would ensure that he would be reelected. Because nobody that has Medicare right now that would ever let that be lost. They would fight to their death to make sure that they still have it. And I believe that it would stimulate the economy big time. If you want to talk about an economy stimulus, that's it right there.
Well, I don't think we should call it Medicare. I mean, basically, we know that Obamacare was actually a get-rich-quick scheme for the health insurance industry. It didn't work out. They're in trouble. In fact, even though the stock market as a whole is doing very well today, shares in health insurance companies are trading lower because everybody is now seeing the collapse of Obamacare on the horizon. And what we need is a single-payer system like they have in France or many of these European countries, where the system is there to care for the people and keep them healthy and working, rather than just another way of sucking money out of the pockets of the people and sharing it between corporations and government. So we definitely do need that, okay?
It's very, very important. And I heard another thing that was amazing when I heard it.
Yes.
The last time our economy collapsed in 2008, where they all had to come together and they passed Dodd-Frank to bail out all the banks, I heard that what happened is that George Soros manipulated our currency because the banks were so invested into Hillary Clinton that they wanted to get their money back. And that's the way that they did it. And that could be true. It might not be true, but it could be true. And we have to be very careful right now that he's not up to something like that today. And finally, I believe in Malcolm X's statement that I'm for the truth no matter who's telling it, and I'm for justice no matter who it's for or who it's against. And if you have broken the law in this country, we need to proceed with prosecution.
That I definitely agree with. We need
That's the only way to heal. People cannot get away with storing classified information on insecure servers, and they cannot get away with being funded by foreign countries that also fund terrorism.
The same thing applies to those Wall Street bankers. If a banker has committed fraud, they should go to jail. And one of the things that has divided the United States so badly is this growing awareness that we have a two-tiered society, where we have the masters and the elites who are above the law, and us serfs, deplorables, workers, whatever you want to call us, who must obey the law at all time or suffer severe and strict punishment. And sometimes we're punished without even breaking the law, whether it's civil forfeiture or police violence and abuse. We can be robbed and killed by the government for having done absolutely nothing wrong, and that needs to stop. But absolutely, this nation was founded on the idea of the rule of law, not of powerful people, and everybody in this country, up to and including the president, are subject to those same laws. And Comey made an absolute mockery of that by admitting to us all that Hillary Clinton had committed felony violations of Title 18, but we have decided that we're not going to recommend prosecution because no reasonable prosecutor would want to wind up dead in Fort Marcy Park.
That's right. And one last thing, and then I'm going to let you go, and I thank you for your time and for your great work that you're doing.
Thank you.
We also need to work on getting Julian Assange pardoned and Patrick Manning pardoned. These people are whistleblowers. And
Edward Snowden.
That's right.
It's time to bring them all home.
That's right. And Kennedy said very few secrets should be kept from a free people. Very few. Those people showed us the truth of the evils of our government, and we need to thank them, and they are heroes. And we need to let Trump know they are heroes for what they did. They risked their lives for us, and they put light in stuff that 99.9% of us would have had no idea what our government was up to without them. And we thank them today. I thank them so much. My kids have a better world because of them today.
I would add to that list.
Thank you again, Michael.
Well, thank you very much. I would add to that list for Donald Trump to consider immediate pardons for Leonard Peltier and Mumia al-Jabbar, who are in prison because they're political embarrassments and not much else. It's time to start righting all of the accumulated wrongs of the last 30 years. We're going to do a quick shout-out to our honor affiliates who are rejoining the network, and we're going to take our last phone call for a while. Crystal in Washington State, thank you for waiting so patiently. What's on your mind?
Thank you for all your work, Mike, on this election. And I wanted to bring to people's attention the blue states, because I'm in one of them along the coast, along with Oregon and California. And I think people need to be aware that this is a strong indicator of the criminality and corruption in these states and the government agencies and the defense contractors that are involved and FBI, DHS, and the Department of Homeland Security and military are all involved in the high level of corruption in Washington State. And people need to be aware that people have been politically targeted for surveillance crimes and put on watch lists that have no business on watch lists just because they're politically active. And this is a real problem in Washington State because I'm one of the targeted people that the government has seen fit to target for burglaries. And all I think the Homeland Security agencies are involved in now and law enforcement is running protection for organized crime and their personnel that are involved in criminal activities and domestic terrorism, basically.
Well, James Comey, we already knew this from the COINTELPRO scandal, but James Comey has hammered home the fact that the FBI is actually the American Stasi. They're not the good guys. None of these agencies are. We're looking at all these agencies that we're told are supposed to be looking out for us, like the FDA and the USDA, and then we find out they're actually on the side of big agriculture and big pharmaceutical, and they're there to reassure us that drugs that are causing harm are really okay for us, and if your kid died, it's because you shook them and we're going to put you in jail. It really is a completely corrupted system, and I got to tell you, I do not envy Donald Trump the job that he is taking on right now. And I hope he appreciates the hot kitchen he stepped into. And again, my one concern about Donald Trump going into the White House is that, I mean, he's a fast learner, but in many ways he's still very dangerously naive about what's really been going on inside the inner bowels of government. And I hope he gets at least one advisor who's going to tell him the truth about what's been going on, so that Trump can start making some really constructive choices. Okay?
Yes, thank you. And I think it's because Virginia was a blue state that it's an indicator of the level of intelligence involvement in the corruption in the political system.
Well, again, what was interesting is some of the blue states turned red this election. Some of the blue states are a lot less blue. I know that's true out here in Hawaii. It wasn't the overwhelming landslide for Hillary that they were all predicting. This red-blue state paradigm, it looks good on TV graphics, but it's not really accurate in terms of showing what people are really thinking. Anyway, Crystal, we're going to let you go. We're going to close the phone lines here for a little tiny bit because I got some news I need to get through. Story coming out of Dark Moon. Mind Trump storms into the White House, and you might be put off by the headline, but don't be, because it's actually a celebratory piece and basically saying Donald Trump got in despite being disowned by his own party, sabotaged by the Democrats, attacked by the media, massive amounts of election fraud. They lied about him being in the pocket of Putin, and now he's the boss. This guy that they were trying to just take down, he's now their boss. And payback is going to be a Hillary, to paraphrase it loosely. And believe it or not, the former U.S. ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul, is still pushing this idea that somehow Russia was behind Donald Trump's election victory. That it's all Russia's fault, that if it wasn't for Russia, Hillary would be president, and of course Benghazi, election fraud, secret private server with classified material, Clinton Foundation is the cover for tax evasion, hiring cronies, bribes from foreign countries, giving 123 Technologies $300 million, and then declaring it bankruptcy and selling it to the Chinese, arming the Muslim Brotherhood, Vince Foster, shady commodity deals, funding neo-Nazis in the Ukraine, and on and on and on. That had nothing to do with it at all. It's all the fault of Vladimir Putin. Well, again, as one of our callers pointed on out, if Vladimir Putin was rigging the election, then why were all the electronic voting machines shifting Donald Trump votes to Hillary Clinton? I think the Russians are smarter than that. But they're still out there. Now then, here's where it gets really good. Remember when everybody said that if Donald Trump won the election, that if Donald Trump lost, his supporters would riot in the streets. And here it is, Hillary supporters. They're burning flags, burning cars, filling the streets, California, Oregon, Washington State, all over the place. A lot of them are huge numbers of illegal immigrants who are just absolutely angry and furious that after getting across the border, sneaking into this country illegally, registering to vote illegally, or being given manufactured registrations, voting for Hillary 10 or 20 times, they're not going to get their amnesty and their green cards. And, of course, anybody who supported Hillary Clinton, they were betting on her becoming the president to get their payback. None of it's now going to happen. Meanwhile, we are hearing from the Texas Sheriff's Association that the MS-13 gang, which is still pouring across our open borders, are bringing machete murders, rapes, and scalping into Texas. And even with all of that, they still couldn't get Hillary Clinton elected. Now, Vladimir Putin has already sent his congratulations to Donald Trump, and he's describing Donald Trump's win as a massive defeat for the New World Order globalist agenda, and he's absolutely correct about that. And as I indicated before, Putin has already said, we're ready to mend ties with the United States. We don't want a war any more than the American people do. Let's just go back to being friends, peace through commerce, and trade. Marine Le Pen was very quick to congratulate Donald Trump even before the final numbers came on in. The Prime Minister of Hungary, Orban, is hailing Trump's victory as great news. Over in the Philippines, Duterte, who was pivoting away from the United States and toward China because of Obama going on in and saying, you shouldn't shoot your drug dealers, has congratulated Donald Trump and says, we're now ready to come back to normalizing relationships with the United States of America. And remember, speaking of pardons, Obama has commuted the sentences of dozens and dozens and dozens of cocaine dealers. Leonard Peltier is still rotting in jail, so is Mumia Al-Jawah. But the cocaine dealers, they get to go free. And that tells you this is an autocracy. And this is coming to an end. I cannot imagine Donald Trump being comfortable with the idea that the biggest drug dealer in the country is the country. All around the world leaders who had been attacking and dismissing Donald Trump are now having to grit their teeth and issue congratulations in order to maintain good relations with the U.S. Over in Brussels, they're absolutely in a panic, and they're saying that the EU president is saying that maintaining the EU and moving forward to a global society is now going to be much, much harder with Donald Trump as president, because it means that Russia, China, and the United States are no longer on board with this global government. Now, over at the Huffington Post, and remember, they were part of that group of 56 prostitutes and correspondents who went to that secret, private, off-the-record dinner with John Podesta to jump on board the Hillary Clinton campaign. They're out there wringing their hands and gnashing their teeth and saying, we've jumped into the abyss. And by the way, I'm going to make a prediction. Those 56 people who went to that Podesta dinner, they're all going to be out of work because the corporate media is scrambling to distance themselves from having been part of this fiasco. And every one of their talking heads or executives who were on board the Hillary Clinton campaign, they're very quietly going to be moved on out, early retirement, buyout clause on the contract, whatever. It'll be done as quietly as possible. But they're all going to be heading for the exit. And so now, of course, they're trying to explain away why all those poll numbers were so completely wrong when they were out there saying, oh, Hillary Clinton's ahead, Hillary Clinton's ahead. And they're trying to come up with reasons why you should go on believing their polls in the future, even when they blew it this badly now. So over at money.cnn.com, they have one explanation they're offering, which is that the American political media establishment does not understand the depth of anger in the American people. That I would agree with, absolutely. But what was really going on is the polls were not measuring public opinion. They were trying to manufacture it, to rely on the herd instinct by saying, well, all your friends and neighbors are voting for Hillary Clinton. Shouldn't you vote for Hillary too? And that would have worked back in the 1950s, 1960s. It doesn't work in the age of the Internet in the independent media. And they were a little slow to pick up on that. Over at Newsweek, they had actually put together, published, and distributed, ready to go on the newsstands today, their special issue on President Clinton and what a wonderful accomplishment we have a woman president. And that was Newsweek's Dewey Beats Truman moment. And I imagine those printed magazines are headed for the shredder right now. What a shame we can't actually get one. What a collector's item that would be. Remember, only 2 weeks ago, the Washington Post was out there saying Donald Trump's chances of winning the presidency are 0. And it only proves that Donald Trump was right when he said the establishment media is completely corrupted. They are. Remember when Bill Maher and the panel on his show laughed at Ann Coulter just for saying she was going to win the GOP nomination? I'll bet you Bill isn't laughing too much right now. So, moving on down here. Hillary for president, the steps Trump needs to take. I'm sure we would all love to see Hillary in prison. Actually, I'd like to see the Clintons stripped of all their wealth and forced to live like ordinary poor Americans. That would hurt even more than prison. That would hurt even more than death. That's how you punish a money junkie, is by taking their money away and making them live like the people they made poor, becoming a money junkie. And as I mentioned before, the Trump campaign manager is not ruling out a special prosecutor for Hillary Clinton. But something needs to be done. Donald Trump went on into office promising he was going to go after Hillary and her cronies. If he doesn't do that, then he's going to be crippling his presidency right from the very, very beginning. The American people want prosecutions. The American people are demanding prosecutions. And he's got to deliver. Now, there's another article. Actually, we're coming up on a commercial break, so I'm going to put this article on hold, and then we will come on back and talk about this, because this is an important concept. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And there's an article over in FortRuss.com which raises an interesting concept. And the headline is asking, will the anti-Clinton revolt among American elites gain momentum? Now, we know ordinary Americans are sick and tired of the Bushes and the Clintons and corruption in general. But we know that there is a serious faction fight going on within the government. The people at the very top, James Comey, Loretta Lynch, are still trying to protect Hillary Clinton. Although now that she can't guarantee their continued employment after January, they may be a little less enthusiastic about that. But we know that just underneath those few people at the very top, official Washington has had it with what's going on. They don't like their public image with the American people being seen as completely, totally corrupt from top to bottom. They're getting very nervous about all the talk about how much better this country would be without a central federal government like Belgium or Spain. They want to keep on getting those cushy little checks filled with taxpayer dollars. They're getting very, very nervous about that. Now, getting on back to the Clinton Foundation. First of all, it's had problems before. It failed to report tens of millions of dollars in foreign government donations on its 1990 tax return to the IRS. The IRS in Dallas is now investigating whether the Clinton Foundation actually qualifies as a tax-exempt 501c3 organization. Now, the rules are that a 501c3 organization has to be spending at least 51% of the funds they take in on whatever their charity is declared to be in their organizing documents. If you are running a charity for unmarried women, you have to spend 51% of your money on the unmarried women. If you start writing checks over to the baby seal people or lost kittens, you're not allowed to do that. And you're not allowed to simply drain the money off for personal use. Now remember, we've already established Chelsea Clinton paid for her very luxurious plush wedding with foundation funds. And that tells us that the IRS is going to probably come to the conclusion that the Clinton Foundation is not a 501c3 because they don't have to worry about a President Hillary coming down on them. And the Clinton Foundation, like Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme, is rife with nepotism. Bill's got a job there. Chelsea's got a job there. Another story coming on out from Russia Insider. Donald Trump is poised to overturn generations of liberal neocon rule, and that is going to be a good thing. Getting rid of the neocons to get rid of the war agenda, and getting rid of the liberals to get rid of all this political correctness, social justice warrior nonsense that is really little more than cultural Marxism and a covert attempt to steal our First Amendment rights from us. Because the reality is you cannot have freedom of speech and not offend somebody for whom the truth is a problem. We need to just basically say, enough with that. Enough with political correctness. It's a complete waste of time. Now, Julian Assange has come under severe criticism for dumping all of this incriminating information about Hillary Clinton, and they're out there saying, why weren't you doing it about Donald Trump? Why weren't you going after Donald Trump? And Assange finally replied on that very question. He says, we couldn't find anything. Remember when Donald Trump first declared for the candidacy, and the Washington Post literally put a team of 30 journalists to try and dig up dirt on Donald Trump? All they could find was that his father had been arrested at a KKK rally 9 years before Donald Trump was born. They couldn't even establish that he was in the KKK, just that he was there at the rally and he got arrested along with a bunch of other people and was then immediately released. That's it. That's all they could find. So they had to go on out and just make stuff up out of thin air. Oh, he's swapping wet, sloppy kisses with Vladimir Putin. They're bribing women to come on out and say, oh, he touched me, he touched me. We'll be right back after these few words. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. Do you remember all those celebrities who said they were going to leave the United States if Donald Trump won the presidency? Well, he's won. And the celebrities, Jon Stewart, Jennifer Lawrence, Omari Hardwick, Sienna Miller, Whoopi Goldberg, Barry Diller, Catherine Hahn, Eddie Griffith, Journey Smollett-Bell, Rosie O'Donnell, Jenny Skate. It is Slate. Michelle Branch, George Lopez, Armie Hammer, Amber Rose, Keegan-Michael Kay, Neve Campbell, Raven Simone, Spike Lee, Stephen King. I'll miss Stephen King. I like his books. Chloe Sevigny, Zosia Mamet. I can't even pronounce half of these names. Elizabeth Moss, Natasha Lyonne, and Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Remember, Ginsburg also said she would resign from the Supreme Court if Donald Trump won the presidency. So now Trump has got 2 seats on the Supreme Court that he can fill. Nayo says he's leaving the country. Bryan Cranston is leaving the country. Chelsea Handler, Samuel L. Jackson, Cher is going to leave the country. Amy Schumer, Lena Dunham, Barbara Streisand, Miley Cyrus, the Reverend Al Sharpton, goodbye, Rev. Amazingly enough, Trump's victory did trigger a surge of inquiries into Canada's immigration website sufficient to crash it. Now, unfortunately, what we're getting back from the Canadians is, no, you may not come here. We have very strict immigration laws. And if you were stupid enough to support Hillary Clinton, you're too stupid to live in Canada. Please try Mexico. All right, we're going to take some phone calls. Peter in Los Angeles, aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Michael. Well, congratulations. A lot of this was you. But I wanted to start out by saying none of this would have happened. Trump would have ignominiously lost without Julian Assange, and I hope he gets pardoned and so on. Julian Assange tipped the scales. The other thing, though, is about I voted personally for Clinton for Trump because I wanted to see Hillary Clinton prosecuted.
Oh, that was certainly a big motive for me. I mean, I've never been shy about the fact for me. This is a personal grievance. 22 years ago, the Clintons wrecked my career, and yesterday I returned the favor, and that feels pretty darn good.
Okay, I have an idea. Trump has to come out and say, at least the conciliatory, let's all get under the same tent kind of thing that he said last night and even, I guess, this morning, too. But if I were handling it, I would get my Justice Department, my new Attorney General and principal aides, the new Director of the FBI, get another judge, maybe like Napolitano or somebody like that.
Okay, Peter. For some reason, this is a really, really bad phone connection. You sound like you're underwater, and I can't really understand you. Would you mind calling back in? Oh, wait a minute. My control room is saying you're better now. Peter, give me a sound check.
Yeah, can you hear me, Mike?
Yeah, you're better. Go ahead. Please continue.
Well, I would get my new Justice Department and maybe a Supreme Court guy in there, and I would, because he has to appear conciliatory, really is kind of necessary, but I would make a point of saying that the investigations that the Obama administration started are ongoing. And what we're going to do is we're going to refer, under the new investigations, which we're unsure of the accuracy and reliability of the first investigation. So the new director of the FBI and the new DOJ, DOJ and Attorney General are going to do it and actually put people under oath. We're going to bring all this stuff to Trey Gowdy's committee, and it's bipartisan over there. Of course, the Republicans will control it, but and say let them recommend whether to indict or not to indict. And that way it puts the onus on the Democrats then to howl and stand in the way of releasing the information. But the information will be released. That's the important thing, that everybody knows that the Clinton Foundation is completely corrupt, that Hillary is a murderous sociopath and all the stuff that went on. And I hope there's accountability, because it would be a big thing with me if she wasn't brought to justice.
Well, I still want to see Hillary brought up on espionage charges. I still think it is reasonable to suspect and to ask if, based on the Clintons' 1996 Chinagate scandal, if Hillary had been selling U.S. secrets to foreign interests through that weak email server and using her foundation to collect and launder the money. And I'm not going to let go of that one. I'm absolutely not going to let go of that particular issue. Now, the fact that Donald Trump is calling for unity of all Americans doesn't mean he's being conciliatory. He doesn't need to be conciliatory. He won. And so I don't think he needs to tread softly and gently. Certainly during his first year in office, he's got the bully pulpit. He's got the mandate of the American people. And he doesn't have to tread gently. Remember, the reason Donald Trump was so popular with the American people is he's got his own money. He can't be bought. He doesn't need to beg money from other people and return favors to them. He can basically be his own man, and that's going to be a refreshing change in the White House.
Mike, think of it. I mean, he had all the corporate media arrayed against him, yes, including all their talking heads and reporters. They were actually contributing millions and millions of dollars to Hillary Clinton. He had the entire apparatus of the federal government under Obama investigating the IRS and the FBI and the DOJ. He had the banks. He had the media, the banks. He had the Israeli lobby and even the military-industrial complex arrayed against him, and he still won.
We, the American people, won. And Trump's the figurehead, but this was a statement by the American people that we have had enough of this nonsense. All those people within the government who were arrayed against Donald Trump and went after him, well, he's going to be their new boss, and like I said, payback is going to be a Hillary.
Mike, I'm going to sign up. A lot of this, the readership, it was you. So.
Hello? Okay, we just lost a connection there. Is Gina in Texas available? Gina, are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's on your mind?
Well, I had a question for you regarding Hillary and Comey not indicting her. Can Obama pardon Hillary without her being charged with anything?
Technically, no, but Obama could go back and invoke the precedent set by Gerald Ford, who, when Nixon stepped down, and Gerald Ford became the president, he issued a blanket pardon to all of the Watergate participants, including Richard Nixon, to end our national nightmare. And it wasn't really legal for him to do so, but everybody inside the government wanted this problem to go away before the link between the Watergate burglary and the Kennedy assassination became common public knowledge. And so Obama does have that precedent by a prior president that he could use to say, yes, this has gone on long enough. We've got better things to worry about than whether or not we had a serving Secretary of State committing espionage. And it is certainly reasonable that Obama is going to go ahead and issue a blanket pardon in order to end all possible investigations. Of course, then he gets to carry that into the history books as part of his legacy.
Okay, now what if something comes from the Clinton Foundation investigation after Obama leaves office? If under a pardon to Clinton, would that still be covered? Would she still be covered under a pardon?
Well, that's getting into a really gray area, because the way Gerald Ford set up his pardon, it was sort of implied that any crimes yet to be discovered would be covered by it. But certainly the president, there has to be a limit to a presidential pardon. And a presidential pardon is only relative to federal charges. If the Clinton Foundation is charged in state court, the presidential pardon would have absolutely no effect on that. And remember, Larry Klayman had an ironclad RICO lawsuit down in Florida against the Clinton Foundation. But the question is Obama willing to basically go into the history books as being a corrupt president who pardoned a couple of hundred cocaine dealers and the Clintons as well? Because he doesn't have much of anything else to go into the history books. Obamacare has been a disaster. The global warming thing was a disaster. He doesn't really have anything that he can look at that's a positive to take into the history books.
I agree. I just want to say one thing. I know this is a little outside of your realm, but I really do feel that I know there were millions of prayers over the last few days, and I think God heard and lent us his strength in Trump winning this election, for sure.
Claire would certainly agree with you.
Mike, thanks for your time.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch to Frank in Pennsylvania. Aloha, Frank. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Okay, Mike, yes, the polling in Pennsylvania was just amazing. It was almost an hour to get in the polls, and people were coming out in wheelchairs and crutches, and it was just amazing to see all the support of Donald Trump. And how did I know they were Donald Trump supporters? Well, they were wearing little red, either on their lapels or on their, one guy had a red painter's tape on his wheelchair. It was just amazing to see it. And I think the vote was a lot higher. Even though they stuffed ballot boxes in Philadelphia, the vote was very high for Donald Trump. And that goes to show what we've been talking about for the past year. You know, when you deindustrialize a country, send the plants over to China, and then re-import those products into the United States, it's going to take an effect at the ballot box. And that's what happened. That's what truly happened. And Trump spoke to those folks, people like myself, that seen the slow deindustrialization after NAFTA, and then they speeded it up when China took the WTO. And, and what was Pennsylvania great for? It was, coal, oil, textiles, steel.
Yes.
It's all gone. It's just, and if you ever come back to the States, Mike, I know you've been in Hawaii for a number of years, you would see factory upon factory that is just sitting idle and crumbling and falling apart.
Well, it's not like I haven't been back to the U.S. In fact, we were back in Indiana here about a month ago. And, I have seen the decay and the deterioration, and not even in person, just looking at the news that's out there, and all of what made America great before has been chopped out and sold off to other countries by a corporate culture that was raised in this whole MBA environment to have absolutely no love and empathy for the actual process of making a product. And they literally grew up to be our corporate leaders today who are saying, we don't need to make stuff, we'll just have it made someplace else and bring it in here. And nobody's maintaining the overview, and that really is ultimately the job of the government. And it really amazes me that so many people in our financial sector are still fully on board with Adam Smith's idea that being personally greedy is good for the system as a whole, even though John Nash's doctoral dissertation proved that just was not so, that if you weren't maintaining an overview of the entire economy as you made your economic plans, that you were leading to a situation where it would lock up.
Yes, Mike, excellent. And the question I have for you is, what do you think Trump is going to do with NASA? I believe we fell way behind in space exploration. I think there's a new frontier out there, many, many new things to be discovered that will be helpful for our race. What do you think Trump will do with NASA?
I am hoping that he will put a new emphasis on NASA, that he'll pull them away from all of this propaganda of global warming and turn them back into being a civilian technology incubator. Now, we have all the military technology incubators, but everything they invent is withheld from the American people for 10, 20, 30 years until it's really kind of useless for anything. And we need to remember the reason for this, having a space program has nothing to do with putting our flag on other planets. That's a side effect. The tech boom in the United States of the 70s, 80s, and 90s all came out of the technological fallout of solving the problems necessary to go to the moon. And we need to repeat that. It's one thing to say we let all of our factories go to the other countries, we'd like to bring them back. Those other countries aren't going to be stupid enough to let us take those factories back. They're going to hang on to them. So the only way we're going to regain our role as a manufacturing powerhouse, we need to leapfrog ahead. We need to come up with the next major revolutions like photonics or whatever it's going to take, and the best way to develop those technologies is with a revived space program, developing these technologies to solve problems related to spaceflight. And kick off another tech boom like we saw in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. That's what I'd really like to hope for NASA. And all jokes about ground crewmen in ape costumes aside, that's really what I think Donald Trump needs to do with NASA.
I agree. Mike, great program, and a lot of votes that you brung out for Trump out there in the Northeast. So keep up the good work, Mike.
Well, thank you very much there. We're going to let you go and switch over to Mark in North Carolina. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
How you doing, Mike?
Doing good.
First of all, I got a little bone to pick. You really insulted female dogs before by comparing Hillary to one. Okay.
Well, if I say the real word, the FCC is going to start yanking the licenses of our on-air affiliates, and I have so few of those right now that I don't want to offend them.
Oh, no, I mean, it offends female dogs just to have her compared to one of them, you know?
Okay, well, like I said before, you can't have freedom of speech and not annoy somebody.
Right. Anyway, what I think Trump and Putin should do is, as soon as Trump gets in, he should have Putin as his first foreign guest, and they should really discuss ending NATO, or at least the United States getting out of NATO, both countries getting out of the UN, and concentrate together on defeating the globalist enemy, which is an enemy to the whole world. And the United States and Russia teaming up, this would be the greatest thing. And the heck with Western Europe, what they say, or anybody else. I think it could be done, and I really think that Trump...
I think it'd be a good idea. I think it would be a good idea. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening when Trump gets into that Oval Office, and I'm certainly going to be watching and admiring from afar. Mark, we got to let you go. Take a break for commercials. Got another caller waiting on the line when we get back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're going to go right back to the telephones. Ernest in Reno. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. I wanted to call. We've seen this before, and I hope the same thing doesn't happen. Back when Bush Jr. won the election, I remember we were already...
he stole that election, remember? I mean, the Supreme Court basically installed him, but the cheating was definitely against Al Gore. And we don't really actually know who won, but I think at this juncture we have to say that, yes, George W. Bush stole that election away from Al Gore.
Well, we knew his father by then. Anybody who's paying attention was already into the globalization thing. And we knew that Clinton, because NAFTA, GATT, Chinagate, was also following that direction.
Yes.
So when Bush Jr. took over, we had guys like Hannity saying, the grown-ups are in charge. The country's going to change. And you know what? It didn't. The direction continued. And see, that's what worries me, is that I'd like to see Trump, sooner rather than later, start saying, we're going to have to revisit these Paris climate treaties. We're going to have to revisit all this NATO. And if we see that, I'll be very happy. If not, I'm going to start worrying, just like I did back then.
Well, let me give you a little background that you need to keep in mind. With the Clintons and the Bushes, you are looking at a multi-generational dynastic family that has been ruling this country and handing the White House off back and forth to each other. And yes, Barack Obama managed to get in on the inside of them because they weren't really paying attention back in 2008. But they are lifelong parts of this narcocracy that's been running the country. Their political fortunes all go back to that CIA-sanctioned gun and drug-running operation into Nicaragua out of Arkansas under then-Governor Bill Clinton. You probably heard the news today saying that Donald Trump's a man who's never held political office before, and now he's the president. That's why we know he's going to be different. He's not a career politician. He's a businessman. He knows how to build things and how to make things, and he's going to be doing that with the United States. Anybody coming in from the Bush family or the Clinton family, they're continuing the proud family tradition of oligarchy and government-sanctioned drug running and so forth.
Well, yeah, but if there's handlers above those families, then it might be a problem. If not, then hopefully he will reverse course. And
well, the elder Bush is one of the handlers. There's no question about that.
One of the
he's one of the puppet masters. But again, because Donald Trump has his own money, can't be bought, can't be bribed. He doesn't have handlers above him. They're going to try and handle him from below, but they're not going to have a lot of luck with that. Anyway, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go because we're coming up here on our top of the hour station break. We've got a bunch more calls going into hour number 3 of our program, plus whatever's left of our news here. And by the way, rumor is that Madonna just ordered a 50-gallon drum of mouthwash in order to keep her promise to those New York voters who did vote for Hillary Clinton. We'll be right back. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3, and we're going to go right back to the phone lines here. Paul in Montana. Aloha, Paul. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mr. Rivero. You mentioned resurrecting NASA.
Yes.
NASA is probably as criminal as the Clinton-Bush narcocracy. Those people there's absolutely no intelligence there. There's a lot of cunning and a lot of theft and a lot of fraud, et cetera, et cetera. Best thing that could happen to NASA is you wipe it off the face of Florida.
Well, NASA exists in a lot of places besides Florida, and I don't know if you know this or not, I'm former NASA myself, from back when we could actually get spaceships to fly. So, no, I'll agree the current NASA... I will agree the current NASA management is corrupted politically. They're literally relying on propping up global warming for much of their funding. And everything else, the budget is being cut, which is why, unfortunately, they've had some very spectacular failures lately, but they've had some successes as well. And when we talk about reviving NASA, I think we need to reverse the new NASA decision. And I was actually there when this was all starting to come down, where we'd beaten the Russians to the moon, and everybody was bemoaning the high cost of space travel. And they said, well, we're going to change NASA. We're going to take the scientists and engineers out of the management positions, and we're going to bring in some MBAs and bean counters and button pushers to manage NASA on a more business-like footing, which led to an endless series of disasters. And I think we need to put the scientists and engineers back in charge because they know how to make the stuff work. And again, retask NASA to a technology incubator by giving them a goal and an objective. A return to the moon, just the ability to get up to our own space station economically, and whatever it's going to take that would, in a matter of course, require NASA to develop some new technologies that would have commercial applications. And again, looking back at the race to the moon, giving birth to the tech boom of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we know the system works. We know it works. When there's a civilian technology incubator, the civilian industry and commerce is going to benefit from it.
NASA is like our current narcocracy, a multi-generation crime family.
Okay, well, all right, Paul, that's your opinion, and we're going to thank you for your opinion and let you go because we've got a bunch of other callers here. Mike in California, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oops. Very good. Aloha to you. Wonderful program.
Thank you.
I love this program. You're so knowledgeable. Sometime I would like to actually hear your background and where you come from, where you get all this knowledge.
I'm descended from a long line my mother listened to.
Yeah. For right now, I just want to say I was on the internet kind of surfing, and I came across this, it's a Royal Albert Hall, London. It's on a YouTube, and there's hundreds of musicians, hundreds of singers, okay? And the first one I went to was a song they sung was entitled, "To God Be the Glory." I just had to get on my knees and lift up my hands and just praise God and thank God for raising up Donald Trump, who's our middle finger to this elite globalism. That's what he is. He's our Churchill. He's our Ramrod. That's what he is. He's just a voice. He's our voice. I thank God for raising him up.
You raise an interesting little historical parallel because most people don't know this. Winston Churchill, prior to becoming Lord Admiral of the Navy, whatever it was, he didn't spend his entire life in politics. His early career, he wrote children's books for a living. And then he was a journalist with the newspaper, and that's what made him famous. And then all of a sudden he got into the Admiralty, and from there he became Prime Minister. And sometimes our greatest leaders are people who come from other walks of life. We know that Ron Paul was a tremendous congressman because that wasn't his first job. He was a doctor. And that was certainly true of Churchill, and it's going to be true of Donald Trump. They've criticized him so much about being this successful businessman who gets into politics late in life, but that same description matches George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Ben Franklin. They were all successful businessmen, and they got into politics very, very late in life in order to create this new nation.
Exactly. The other day, very well spoken. The other day, I was thinking about, it just crossed my mind, perhaps God put it in my mind, I was thinking about a classic movie entitled 12 Angry Men.
Yes. It actually started it started as a stage play. You can still find it being done by high schools all across the country, and it's a wonderful, wonderful piece of writing. Michael, we're going to let you go here. We need to take a pause here to do a shout-out to our on-air affiliates, and we're going to take a phone call from Stephen in Pennsylvania. Stephen, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Stephen, are you there?
Fleeing the swamp that is about to be drained.
Yes, and let's just make sure that there's no alligators nipping at our backsides in the process. I'll tell you what. Hey, I have an idea. We take all those alligators we find in the swamp in Washington, D.C., we put them in the Rio Grande. We won't need to spend money to build a wall.
That's a great idea. Anyway, I had an alternate name for the alternate or independent media for you, and possibly a position in the government for you, and a way to maybe eliminate and get rid of the cartel in America known as the CIA.
Okay, and what would that be?
How about the Open Source Intelligence Service?
Well, I think the NSA already tried to do that by monitoring all of our social media traffic, realizing way too late that everybody lies on social media, especially if they're trying to pick up a hot date.
Well, thank you very much for all your information over the years, Mike. I've been listening to you since JTV days, and you really helped awaken me and the rest of this country. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you very much as well. And let's see, I think Ann in Colorado is next. This thing's jumping around here. Ann, are you there? No, I guess Ann is not there. So let's go to Stephen.
I'm sorry, they just messed up my line, so I just keep going now.
Okay, Ann, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, good. What's on your mind today?
I came in late on the program. Love your show. I wanted to know how do the American people get around these blanket pardons for criminal politicians and get them prosecuted?
Well, it's unfortunate, but back in 1981, the Supreme Court actually revoked the right of ordinary citizens to file criminal charges against anybody. I'm sure when you were a kid, you probably grew up seeing on TV show, this is a citizen's arrest and I'm going to file criminal charges against you. And the Supreme Court took that away from us so that now only the government decides who will or will not be charged with a criminal complaint. Now, there's another way around that, and that is, of course, to find a way to sue these corrupt politicians civilly, but you have to be able to prove that they have inflicted real financial damage on you with their various shenanigans.
Well, just the whole concept of granting pardons sounds like they have committed something wrong, unlawful.
Well, now, wait a minute. I think the idea of a chief executive, either of a state or the country, having the power to issue a pardon is something that needs to be there because we know that our justice system is not just. It does make mistakes. And every once in a while, the chief executive should have the right to come on in and say, look, this person really doesn't deserve to die, or whatever, and commute the sentence or release them. There's a legitimate reason to have a pardon. But like anything else in the government, it can be misused for political gain.
But like I said, Mike, it sounds granting the pardon implies that they have done something wrong, and you're just excusing them from prosecution.
Well, granting a pardon can also mean that somebody was wrongfully convicted, and the chief executive is saying, we're going to correct that evil. Because we know wrongful convictions and even wrongful executions do take place in the United States of America. Yeah. Historians look back now at Bruno Richard Hauptmann, who was executed for the Lindbergh kidnapping, and they're realizing he was framed and set up and executed for political necessity of showing that, yes, we had found the kidnapper and dealt with him, and he was set up and framed. And it does happen. We know that Leonard Peltier was framed for the killing of 2 FBI agents up on the Native American reservation. He should be pardoned.
Well, Mike, getting back to the constitutional breaking of laws within the Constitution, nobody got framed. They're guilty of it, and yet, whether it's the Attorney General or the Department of Justice, they're getting away with it.
Well, hopefully under President Trump, they will not get away with it any longer. And the power of the pardon, unfortunately, like any other authority granted to the office of the presidency, is going to be used for good or evil, depending upon the character of the person who's sitting in that chair. And
what's the best way to get him prosecuted, then?
The best way to get him prosecuted, in my opinion, is to get Trey Gowdy as the Attorney General and just turn him loose, because he's angry. And that's a good motivator. It certainly motivated me for 2 decades.
A lot of people are angry. It's been going on too long.
Well, I understand that. I'm angry, too. I've been angry for 2 decades. Okay?
But it is possible to get him prosecuted.
Well, we're working on ways to do that.
Too long.
Okay, Ann, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go and switch over to Anthony in California. Aloha, Anthony. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Michael. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate listening to your broadcast, and I'm grateful that I've learned a lot about the economics, how everything is run. And I just wanted to say to you, in regards to NASA, what did you do to NASA? What were you doing in NASA?
Oh, I did a couple of different things. I was a resident astronomer assistant up at Table Mountain Observatory. I did image processing on Viking, the lander images, and Voyager, and I did some proton luminescence studies on the moon rocks returned by Apollo 12, as well as some of the pieces of the camera removed from Surveyor 3, and the rest I can't talk about.
Okay, yeah, that's understandable. I was just wondering, I hope you're part of the Trump administration, an advisor to NASA or something, so that you can do something related to NASA.
Well, worse things could happen to me, and Donald Trump knows where to find me, I'm sure.
Okay.
Even though he doesn't call into my show, I'm absolutely crushed. Okay.
Well, I do hope that his people are listening, and that they say something about you, because you are an intelligible, knowledgeable guy, and if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't understand the social and economic politics of today. So I listen to your broadcast whenever I can, and I'm really happy that Trump is our president. I voted for him.
I am too. I am so happy. It's like the closing of a very dark chapter in my own life. I would not be, I certainly wouldn't want to be spokesman like that other caller suggested, but I would not be averse to participating in the Trump administration in some capacity. Claire would certainly love to be living somewhere around that Virginia area, so she had more singers and more choirs to fling her music at. Because it's been a little difficult out here in Hawaii finding singers who can handle the sophisticated music that she writes.
Oh well, if you get that shot, that opportunity, change is always good, Mike.
Yes. Yes.
You know, I mean, if you want to close a chapter in your life and you want to move on, you get an excellent opportunity to be an advisor to NASA. Hey. Take it.
I certainly will. I certainly will. I mean, I've been doing, this website stuff for 22 years. I've been doing the talk radio for 9 years. I'm not averse to moving upward in either of those two areas, but I'm open to opportunities and change, and I'd certainly like the ability to give Claire the lifestyle to which I'd like her to become accustomed. Because she's put up with a lot of crud over the last 22 years. And stayed with me just loyally and been my best support and my best friend through all of this. And we don't talk about everything that we went through because most people wouldn't believe it. Frankly, 22 years ago, if somebody had said, this is what you're going to have to go through over the next going on quarter of a century, we would have said, what kind of drugs are you on and why aren't you sharing them? And it's one of those things where you have to live through it before you really understand this kind of stuff does go on in the United States of America.
Well, life does take you for a spin, Mike. And aside from all this...
In our case, it's the tilt-a-whirl, and I'm ready to puke.
Well, I hope you're still around, broadcasting if you do take this job, So
always in motion is the future. Little short guy with weird ears told me that.
Well, I wish you would visit me too.
All righty. Well, listen, Anthony, thank you. All right, thank you for the kind words. We're going to let you go and switch over to Chad in Canada. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. I have a quick comment and a quick question. My comment is simply, being a Canadian, I'm just saying congratulations, America. I am so impressed that you've given yourself a chance to pull out of the trajectory that you've been on. And my question is, can you, Mike, picture a day where somebody like you or yourself or maybe David Knight is sitting in the White House press conference asking the first question?
I could see that happening. Again, if an opportunity were to open up for me to move upward into the new independent media, they're going to have to start letting us into that White House press office along with the corporate media. I wouldn't hesitate to sit there in that chair and ask an embarrassing question or two.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. Thank you so much, Mike.
All right, thank you very much for the phone call and the questions here. We got a couple more callers waiting on the line, but I'm going to leave them until after the next commercial. Meanwhile, we need to be looking at the war zones. Apparently, Russia has not yet started its planned attack on Aleppo. I guess they were too busy celebrating over Trump's victory last night. But it looks like it's probably going to happen somewhere within the next 24 to 48 hours. They're going to go on in and just scrape all the U.S.-backed terrorists out of Aleppo, and that will be the end of that chapter. I mean, with Trump winning the election, the rug has been pulled out of from under the war agenda, except, of course, for the possibility that they're going to try and start it before he can take office. But Trump and Putin already have an understanding. They're not going to let anybody start a war for them. The open issue right now is China, but I presume China's leadership will be just as amenable as Putin to avoiding a war that could wind up going nuclear as well. All right, we're going to take a break for some commercials here. We got a bunch of callers waiting on the line, and we'll be back after these words from our sponsors. Hello, hi America. Welcome back to our show here, and I'm seeing this report just came through. Apparently, they've had another problem with that F-35. It was in a training flight over South Carolina last month, and just caught fire in midair. And even more alarming, the fire spread to the weapons bay, which fortunately was empty, but it's still $2 million to the aircraft. 2 more, and that pilot's an enemy ace. All right, we're going to go back to the phones here. Anthony in Colorado, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Thank you for having me. I just have a suggestion. I would like to see Mr. Donald Trump nominate Ron Paul to the Supreme Court.
Ooh, I would love to see that too. I would love to see Donald Trump bring Ron Paul in some. In fact, I'd like to see Ron Paul made Secretary of the Treasury and start holding the Federal Reserve's feet to the fire.
I think the Supreme Court would be better for him. He's really always been for the Constitution, and he would be a major asset.
That's a good idea. That's a very, very good idea. I absolutely agree.
I hope everyone just tries to flood his Twitter, Facebook, or anyone in his circle. Just try to put that out there to get someone really, really important in that position that's going to help us as American people. So,
well, if Ruth Bader Ginsburg keeps her promise to quit the Supreme Court now that Trump has won the presidency, that's going to be 2 seats Trump is going to be able to fill.
Yeah, exactly. But I would think that would be my suggestion, and hopefully we're going to be going on the road to repairing our image across the world and doing better for our country as a whole.
Yeah, we got a long, long way to go, and there's a lot of work ahead of us. Our job is just now beginning. And we've got a lot of work ahead of us now. All right, Anthony, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go and switch over to Andy in Texas. Aloha, Andy. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, I'll tell you, Mike, that F-35 is like a flying garbage can that your neighbor threw over the fence into your yard. I mean, what a joke that is, but that's not what I called for. I want to eat some crow on your show right now. I was a very pessimistic person. I thought the New World Order was much more powerful, and that they would just definitely, there was no way that Donald Trump could win this. And so I'm eating crow right now. I'm doing it publicly and whatnot. But I'll tell you what, this shows a vulnerability to the New World Order. Now we know that when we speak, you better listen. You see what I'm saying, boss?
We know they are vulnerable. We know they can be beaten, and that's an important thing for the people of the world to know, is that this New World Order group, they're not invulnerable. They can be beaten. They can be defeated. It just takes a mass public outcry and will to do it.
But you see, what really happened here, and this election did a lot of things for us. What really happened here is that now, besides waking everybody up, we now know that we, the people, have the power.
Yes.
And it's such a heartwarming thing for me, and I'll eat crow all day long, because I was pessimistic as HE double toothpicks that he wasn't going to get there, that they would never let him in there because there was too much at stake. But you know what? There is too much at stake for the rest of us. Okay? They had their little hands in the pie, and now our hands are in the pie. And grab a cherry while you're there. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
this is an awesome moment in history.
It is. It's a history-making election here, and it's opened up an opportunity to undo so much of the damage that's been done. And again, my top priority for the next 2 years, assuming I don't go to work for the Trump White House or NASA, is we have got to rip apart this totally bogus, fraudulent election system and put in a totally transparent, verifiable, trustworthy election system that the American people can believe in because they can look inside and see it working all the way along the process. And only that is going to resurrect trust in the American democracy. Anyway.
Well, one more thing, Mike.
Real quick, we're coming up on a commercial break.
Okay, really quick. I would really like to see Donald Trump, let's really embrace this Constitution, and let's get all these people that are in jail with no victim, or in prison with no victim. Let's get them out.
Yeah, let's all give them jobs hunting down the illegal immigrants and pitching them across that border. We got to take a break for commercials.
Whatever it takes, boss.
Thank you for the phone call, Andy. We'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And before we go back to the phones here, I'd like to remind everybody that following my show, John Stadmiller is going to have his own program, and of course he's going to be talking about the election and the results and the ramifications and the implications here. We are a long ways away from really seeing how much change Trump's victory last night is going to bring about. We're starting to see it. We don't know how far it's going to go, what it's going to do. So stay tuned for John Stadmiller's show. We're going to go back to the phones here. Jason in Boston, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Jason, are you there?
Mr. Mike?
Yes.
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right. Excellent. So we did it, right?
Yes.
We did it. Now that being said, I have a let's do this properly, a question and then a comment. My question to you is, I don't know what your deep views are. I'm one of those real tinfoil hat types, although at this point that's, I think, been rather quelched to a degree given the fact that Trump has gone in. So my question is, do you think that they've allowed him to come in and he's real? And my statement is, I do believe that he is and is going to face massive resistance. I don't mean to be too nebulous, but I tend to rant, and I just want to leave the rest up to you, and I'll take the answer off the air.
Okay, well, you're absolutely right. Donald Trump coming on in is going to face a massive resistance because he's dealing with an entrenched political oligarchy that doesn't want anything to change. They love the crooked election system because it keeps them in power. They love the way the laws are currently written. It just sucks money out of the people's pocket and puts it in their pocket. They don't want anything to change. They're guarding that status quo jealously. And Donald Trump by himself is not going to be able to prevail against him. That's why I'm saying we're going to have to stand shoulder to shoulder with President Trump and glare at those representatives and senators through the glass of their office windows and remind them every day of their lives. You work for us. You represent us. You are not here to represent Wall Street. You are not here to represent Israel. You are not here to represent Big Pharma. You're not here to represent Big Oil. You either do the job for the American people or we will do to you next election what we did to Hillary Clinton this time out. And that will really have bearing. If we can succeed in bringing about election system reform, they're going to know it's a credible threat. They're not going to be protected by those Diebold machines anymore. As far as anybody letting Donald Trump in, absolutely not. He overcame this incredible array of establishment bodies that wanted him out. They wanted Hillary in there. They couldn't stop it. Now, that being said, now that he's going to be the president, anything bad that happens, they're going to blame on him. Economy crashes, they're going to blame him, just like they did Herbert Hoover. Herbert Hoover did not create the Depression in the 1930s. It was created for him, and he carried the stain into the history books. And they're going to do exactly the same thing with Donald Trump. They may even try and start a real world war and stick him with it before he's able to take the oath of office. So that's something we all have to be aware of right now. All right, we're going to go to Michael in California. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Michael, I voted for Trump, and I live in California, so he didn't carry it. But I still have some other concerns about him, and let me explain you why. He will sort of set me at ease if I see the people he nominates to the cabinet posts and the advisors he selects. That will set the tone for what he intends to do. If he gets guys in like Rahm Emanuel, Axelrod, Larry Summers, Robert Rubin, all these guys that Clinton and Obama used, then the country is not going to win.
Well, like I said, they're going to try and manipulate him from below here. But I think Donald Trump, if he realizes he's getting bad advice, he won't hesitate to fire his cabinet members. He's not steeped in the rituals of government that once you are stuck with a member of the cabinet or an advisor, that you stay with them for the sake of appearances. I mean, look at his reality show. His public image is one of being able to fire incompetence and underachievement at a moment's notice, and I think anybody who's joining his administration had better remember that. There's going to be no job security in the Trump administration.
Well, I understand that. But still, I still have concerns about his position on the Iran deal. He doesn't like it, and he said he will do something about it. There's some other issues that he came up with.
Okay, well, Michael, let me assuage your concerns there, because he was campaigning. He was playing to what he thought were the mass beliefs of the American people. And again, my concern about Donald Trump is that too much of his worldview is created by what he sees on TV and reads in newspapers. And in many ways, he's almost as naive as Jimmy Carter going into office. That being said, he's a fast learner, and I'm pretty sure he's going to pick up on the reality that Iran was never really a threat to begin with. And he's going to back off on that. Basically, time is going to solve that mystery. We're going to have to wait and see what he does in that first month in office, and that will set the tone for his first term in office.
Well, that's true, but still, like I said, I think we need to keep a very close eye on the situation, and we need to be vocal about it. Because, like I said, he doesn't have much foreign, experience or military. And like Bush,
he's a businessman. Yeah, he's a
I understand that.
Okay, and what he wants to do is his foreign policy is going to be based on what's best for business. In fact, Fox News was just doing a segment where they said the reason Trump was able to win with so much less money than Hillary Clinton was that he ran his campaign as a business, and he ran it very well. Now, that's in contrast to people like Hillary Clinton or any career politician whose idea is grab as much money as you can and throw it at the problem and don't worry about the cost overruns. And if Donald Trump runs this nation the way he ran his campaign, we're going to see the economy just really light up. The stock market's already out there saying, yeah, Trump is going to be good for the economy because he's going to run it like it's a business.
Okay, we'll see. Like I said, I'll keep an eye on it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Michael. We're going to let you go and switch to Dave in Long Island. Aloha, Dave. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. How you doing? I know you're doing good. I'd just like to say, this morning, I don't understand why Hillary Clinton didn't come out and say immediately and start cooling down the situations that were happening in California. You had to wait for Obama to come out and sort of lamely try to calm things down. But she should have been the first one out this morning to calm things down, but she did not do that.
No, she should have been out there last night. The historical tradition is that when the election is over, the loser makes the concession speech right there that night, and that should have been her opportunity to come on out, thank her staffers, and say, okay, we lost, let's just live with it and not have the violence. She just basically went to bed and let Podesta come on out and make a few platitudes, scheduled her concession speech for 10:30 this morning, was still an hour and 8 minutes late, and came on out and almost was another campaign speech. And you're right, she should have said, let's calm down all of this violence that's going on out in California.
Commensurate with her character, I would say.
I would agree with you on that one.
And also, your response to the last call was probably something I was going to bring up. I mean, I'm not worried about when Trump gets in. He's going to fire anybody who doesn't do their job. You can count on that. I mean, he made his, part of his legacy is based upon that. And I mean, do you think that he's going to do a lot of firings of all the Obama appointees and the Clinton appointees? Think he's going to clean house? I hope he does.
Absolutely. I'll tell you this right now. James Comey, if Obama doesn't fire him, and we're starting to hear rumors that may happen, James Comey is going to be gone on day 2 of a Trump administration. Same thing with Loretta Lynch. She's going to be out of there. The president has the authority within the executive branch to just change over everybody that's out there. He could even follow Bill Clinton's precedent and fire every single U.S. attorney and put all new blood in there. And by the way, Trump, if you're listening here, I would strongly recommend Alan Favish for a position as a U.S. attorney. Because he gets the job done. He's very good. He's argued before the United States Supreme Court. And he's a man of honor and integrity, and I've known him for a lot of years, and I would recommend him enthusiastically to be a U.S. attorney.
I hope he doesn't forget about the alternative media who helped put him in there. I mean, I hope he doesn't turn his back.
Well, it almost doesn't matter. I can guarantee you that he's going to be very much on board with this idea of breaking up the giant corporate media monopolies to return diversity to the flow of information in our country. And, nobody here in the independent media seriously was doing what we were doing with the expectation that Donald Trump is going to come pin a medal on the front of our T-shirts. But it would be nice to be acknowledged. But we did this to accomplish what we did, which was to end the Clinton-Bush era and bring about a much-needed restart to our national discourse.
No more barring of the independent media from the presidential press conferences. That's what I say.
Well, I mean, the first thing we can look at, remember, both Hillary and Obama were talking about a curating process for the independent media. They were talking about censoring us. We're never going to see that under Donald Trump. Donald Trump knows who his supporters were in this election, and we don't have to worry about being shut down or controlled or censored in any way for at least the next 4 years.
All right, Mike. Thanks a lot, man. God bless.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Jim in Vancouver. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. I got a couple of things here. Number one, I was following this counter coup with Dr. Pachenik all the way through, and I saw so many sites just maligning him, et cetera, and so forth. And I went out, I listened to those things many, many times, and they put out disinformation and so forth. Well, he's up on Alex Jones this morning, as I was hoping he would be, and he and Roger Stone and Alex were talking about that silent coup. I was texting yesterday that the objectives seem to have come to pass, meanwhile, which is Hillary Clinton first is not going to be the president, and he said other objectives too, which I want to see Obama impeached, and so, or indicted rather, and so forth. So I thought that was well worth mentioning and following along. This guy is a real patriot, I believe.
Well, let me tell what's going on here. The reason I have a problem with this idea where they're out there saying there's a counter coup going on, it's almost like they're trying to steal the thunder of the American people standing up and taking back control of this nation here, where they're selling this idea that even though Trump got in, it's still the dark forces in control, and you, the American people, have nothing to say about that. And I dig my heels in on that one. this was not a counter coup. This was a popular revolution, peaceful, that put Trump into office and brought Hillary Clinton down. And if there's a counter coup, I haven't seen a whole heck of a lot of manifestations of it. And it almost seems like they're trying to sell this idea that what happened yesterday was still part of governmental policy, and they're stealing our thunder, and I really do resent that.
You know, I think that's conflating the idea. He's dealing with these revolting segments of these organizations and not the heads of them as institutions and so forth. And I saw a lot of things that helped me with that, you know, as I studied it and so forth. But I want to talk about something else.
Okay.
I think that'll all wash out as we go. But this thing I picked up on Twitter this morning, somebody put up Vox, V-O-X. I don't know who they are from anybody, but they ran an article saying that Trump did not and will not win the popular vote. But he's one of the only 4 presidents in the United States that won the Electoral College without the popular vote.
Well, you know, the popular vote...
That's a total offense to me.
Okay, hang on. The popular vote has been flipping back and forth. They're still counting ballots. Earlier today, Clinton was ahead, then Trump was ahead. Now Clinton's ahead again today. But it's kind of pointless to talk about Hillary Clinton's popular vote when you realize so many of those votes are fraudulent to begin with. It's a complete and total waste of time. A lot of those votes came from... Hang on. A lot of those Hillary Clinton popular votes came from illegal immigrants who aren't supposed to be voting, especially when they're voting multiple times. There's a lot of dead people who voted for Hillary Clinton, and there's a lot of votes that were flat out stolen from Donald Trump with those electronic voting machines. I don't think Hillary Clinton got anywhere near that number of votes in the popular vote, and that it makes entities like Huffington Post absolute joke to go on out there and scream, the will of the people has been thwarted by the Electoral College. That's only if you assume every single vote was legal and counted properly, and we know that is not true.
So, and I believe that emphatically. He won, and he has the majority of the people. But these guys are trying to undercut and denigrate that, and I'm at this point.
Well, then don't pay attention to them. Ignore them. Ignore them. Ignore Huffington Post. Ignore CNN. Ignore NBC. Ignore CBS. Ignore them. They've marginalized themselves. They've trivialized themselves. Only 6% of Americans think the corporate media can be trusted anymore, and the number's probably even lower than that following the election. So ignore them. Don't pay attention anymore. Just let them go on off and spin their fantasies with each other.
One thing that ends that argument to me is this dirty sleaze bag, George Soros, and his $20 billion can buy these people, and the most that anybody has ever seen anybody, and I heard this from you, nobody's ever been put in jail for doing wrong by their vote, these electoral people, and they can be bought, and the worst somebody ever got was a $1,000 fine. This guy will buy people. That's why I'm saying they do this.
Well, George Soros and all these people on Wall Street and all these foreign governments just got a wake-up call because they poured vast sums of money into Hillary Clinton's campaign, and they lost it all. And that's going to make them a little bit more cautious about that. I agree with George Soros. I don't want him playing God with our country and our people. That's not his job. He's certainly not elected to it. And I'm sick and tired of people with way too much money thinking that money gives them the right to treat this planet and its people like some kind of plaything. It has got to stop. Right. Soros, in my mind, is the biggest argument in favor of socialism because it shows how people with too much money can cause a great deal of mischief. Right. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. We got to take a break for commercials. Thank you very much for the phone call, and we'll be right back after these few words. Aloha, America. Welcome back to the last segment of our program today. We're going to try and get through as many calls as we can here. We're probably not going to hit them all. Mark in Philadelphia. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Mark, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, Mark, you're on the air. What's on your mind?
Thank you, Michael, for reporting, the great reporting you do. I'd like to thank my fellow countrymen for standing up and digging in and voting for Trump. I have a different take on this whole deal. We were seeing that people were saying, oh, it's going to be, it could be Florida or it could be Pennsylvania. Well, this is one thing I noticed because I stayed up real late to watch all this. The states states that have a concentrated populations, big populations, big cities, and still have industry, it was cut close. The race was real close. And those were a few, yes, and there were a lot of electoral votes. I understand that. But here's what, if you look at the detail, what you might consider the rural states or the less populated states or the states that had industry, but the industry is going away. He came across with a landslide. So what that tells me is that people in the more rural areas who are the independent business owners, the mom and pops, they are the ones that really get it. And really, that's what swung it in his direction. That's my take on it. And I say we should stand up and take it back from the corporations and go out, seek out those businesses, small mom and pops, get to know the owners of these businesses. Now, it might be inconvenient. It might not be as easy as going to Walmart, but go find those small independent businesses and get to know them and do business with them and shake their hands and thank them for being in business so we can be a part of the grassroots of taking back and doing our part of holding our feet to the fire while we support Trump in doing his part.
Okay, now real quick, one of the reasons of the disparity you're seeing in the voting numbers is vote riggers concentrate on the highly dense urban centers because it's more cost effective. They can reach more people for less cost. And that's a factor you need to include in. But I absolutely agree. We need to do business with American businesses, and we need to stop doing business with all these corporations that are sending the jobs to other countries, and it will cost us a little bit more, but in the long run, we do need to create a climate where business corporations are going to say, we need to bring the jobs back to the country, if for no other reason than without jobs, they're not going to have the money to buy the stuff in the shopping malls. And we were down at our local mall here. The Farrells down there just went out of business. The stuff at one of the big box department stores, I'm not going to say which one, it's all poorly made junk. We know they're in economic trouble. They're not going to survive the Christmas. They're absolutely not going to do that. All right, Mark, got to let you go. We're going to fit in one more phone call real quick. Ed in Michigan, what's on your mind? Eddie?
Yeah. Mike, there's no question in my mind that the work that you're doing made a huge difference. And also, I'm with Alex Jones on this. He's talking about how, even though she conceded and that she is ready to, get on with things, that they're still going to try just about everything in the book for the next 75 days to...
Oh, the next step is assassination. Even Paul Craig Roberts is saying that. Okay, there's the music. We got to shut down the phones. I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody. We'll be back tomorrow here on the Republic Broadcasting Network. Don't forget to stay tuned to John Stadmiller's show. He's got more to add into the picture of what happened here in the United States yesterday. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.